All right, hello everybody. Today we are going to review, I feel like I'm not centered in the camera, Rocky 2. Now, unfortunately, I kind of feel like this movie was very similar to the first one, the storyline anyway. So we kind of have an exciting opening, and then we get into the exciting opening with the end rounds of Apollo versus Rocky. And then we get into like the hospital scene where they're both taken to the hospital, obviously, and Apollo wants like a rematch now. He's all gung ho about it because despite him winning, a lot of people feel like he didn't win, and that kind of continues throughout the movie as he tries these tactics to get Rocky back in the ring, and then eventually gets to the point where he calls him out on TV, and then Rocky's had enough, and Adrian doesn't want Rocky to go back into the ring, but it's kind of like I guess the warrior spirit. Once you've been called out, you got to go out on your shield, right? Sort of thing to prove yourself. So Adrian is now pregnant, and they end up having a baby boy. And Paulie's a little bit in the picture, and so is the other guy that he worked for in the first movie. Tries to come back after Rocky seems to be failing at every job he has, and so on and so forth. But this movie kind of felt like a very cut, copy, and paste sort of thing from the first one, which I felt kind of sad about because I want to see more action. I don't want to see just the same thing from the first movie, right? Because we've already been introduced to the character. Why do we need the long drawn out process of, what we've already seen, right? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like why it's showing him going through jobs and then like the struggle. Like he shouldn't be struggling anymore, right? Because he just made $150,000 off of his first fight. Like where did all the money go? I know he bought a new car and a new apartment, so maybe he might have rushed things a little bit maybe. And now this fight purse for the second fight is going to be $1 million. So quite a step up from 150K for his first fight. But now Apollo is going to be taking him more seriously due to the fact that Rocky lasted all 15 rounds with him in the first fight. So why wouldn't you take him more seriously after that, right? Of course, you're going to take the guy seriously. I think Apollo kind of, you know, um, took it a little too lightly, thinking that this nobody was just going to be this easy guy to beat. Now, unfortunately, in this movie, I don't even know why the guy who was training him, Mickey, didn't even mention the fact that Rocky's defense was horrible. Like the entire time they're fighting in this movie, he just goes, "You're tougher than him. You're tougher than him." But you can't block punches with your face. So he's still taking the exact same amount of punishment that he did in the first movie. Not to mention, after the first movie and he goes to the hospital, the doctors recommend, like at the beginning of the second movie when he goes to the hospitals, or he goes to the hospital, the doctors recommend to Rocky that he not even fight again. So he says that he's retired, even though Apollo Creed kind of lips off to him, and Rocky's a pretty calm guy, and you know, yeah, kind of a calm, cool demeanor about it, and says, "Wow, this guy's really angry um, about winning for some reason, right? Because he won by split decision, which Apollo feels like he was, even though he won, he doesn't really feel like he won the fight in the eyes of the people because this guy lasted all 15 rounds with him, right? So, and some people are even saying that Rocky won and he has to kind of do it for his own dignity and so on and so forth. But yeah, the entire time they're fighting, I'm like, come on, man, like put your hands up in your face. Like he has his hands down, which I mean is an okay fight tactic, but if you're just constantly getting hit, like put your hands up. Like find another way to get to within range so that you can hit him. And I know that his coach was saying hit him in the body, hit him in the body, like over and over and over again, but it just doesn't make much sense. So when Rocky's kind of doing all these odd jobs around the gym, Gazzo comes back into the picture and says that he can come work for him again and make some extra cash. But of course, now that Rocky's kind of established himself a little bit, and now that he's got a pregnant wife, and so on and so forth, he doesn't want to get involved in that kind of line of work again, right? Which makes sense because that could just put the kid in danger and obviously his wife in danger. So he doesn't want that for the kid or the wife. And then unfortunately, Adrian goes back to work due to the fact that Rocky ends up losing his job. And because she's pregnant, the baby ends up being put strain on her, right? So she had, I guess, some internal bleeding, I do believe, or she was hemorrhaging. The baby was born premature, but the baby was healthy. But unfortunately, due to her putting the extra stress on her body, she goes into a coma. So Rocky has a hard time training due to this. And I think the first fact of it was the fact that Adrian didn't really want him to do it. So he was kind of being lackluster in his training in this movie. So I know that his coach, Mickey, I don't know why I can never remember his name, tries to drill it into his head that he's got to have speed. So he trains him in speed this time, which I don't even know. Like, speed didn't really matter because his defense was so poor, right? I don't know why you wouldn't be training him to defend first before the speed was even a factor. Because, I mean, sure, he's tough, but, like, you can't keep taking that many shots to the head and expect to have a long career in boxing. So after Adrian goes into the coma, Rocky won't train for the fight or even go see the baby until Adrian is awake. So when Adrian finally does come to again, he gets to see his baby boy, and then Adrian tells him that he has to win. But unfortunately, she can't be ringside for this fight due to the fact that the doctor said she shouldn't be going out. She should be staying at home to heal, right? After having the baby and going into a coma, obviously, probably taking the doctor's orders would be the smartest thing to do. So Rocky goes out on his own to fight without Adrian in his corner this time. And yeah, the fight starts off with basically Apollo Creed taking it way more seriously than the first time and just opening up with the jab again and just popping Rocky in the face and him not defending. And I'm like, oh my god, man, defend. You have to defend. Like, I know I've seen this movie before, but I'm still like yelling at my TV like, dude, put your hands up in your face. Like, your coach is telling you to protect your eye, and you're doing absolutely nothing to protect your eye, and you're partially, you can't see that well. He can't see that well over his left eye as it is already, and he has the potential to go blind if he takes too many more shots to the eye. So by the end of the fight, they both looked pretty battered and bruised, and Rocky gets a knockout shot, I believe, was it the final round again? I think it might have been close to the final round again. It was either the 14th or the 15th round. I can't quite remember when he gets the knockout shot, but they both fall down. And at that point, I'm going, okay, this is way too over dramatized. Like, the fact that they both can't get up, even though Rocky should have way more energy after landing those shots and knocking him out pretty much cold, almost. So they both can't get up. It seems like they're all, if they both go to the count of 10, it's a draw. So, of course, Rocky gets up at 9 and wins the heavyweight championship because Apollo doesn't have the energy to get up. So, I mean, did he really win it? I don't know, because I think if it had went to a decision again, Apollo probably would have won the fight just based on strikes landed and thrown sort of thing. So it's just because it's one of those things where Rocky doesn't have any good defense. So he just gets hit with a whole bunch of stuff in the earlier rounds and kind of allows Apollo to get ahead on the points card. Like, I hope I remember these movies, but I don't really remember them at the same time, so I really hope they address Rocky's poor defense, because they really do need to do that in this movie. But yeah, unfortunately, this kind of felt like a very copy and paste of the very first movie, with the whole training montage thing. And I know that in the first movie, the iconic walk up the steps where he like raises his hands and jumps for joy and victory because he feels like he's conquered something, right? They kind of did that again, but now he had like the Now he kind of has a little bit of the fame, so he does some commercials at the beginning of the movie, but then he says to them that this doesn't feel right to him, so he ends up walking off the set and they don't even care. Um, but now that he has a little bit of stardom and everybody in Philadelphia is behind him, the kids end up running with him right to the top of the stairs and kind of celebrating with him and so on and so forth. So, I mean, he does get faster hands in this movie, but really at what cost? Because in my mind, it's almost like he's just like he's losing the fights based on the fact that he has no defense. Now he does have a little bit better head movement in this movie, but I mean, he's still not slipping jabs and stuff like he should be, and he's still taking some pretty heavy shots and damage. And if he wants to have a longevity in boxing, I mean, this was only a yeah, like I don't know the timeline of the actual movies, but I would assume it was a pretty quick turnaround, probably like within a year, that he would be having this rematch with Apollo, right? So I didn't really enjoy this film as much as the first one, so I gave this one a 6 out of 10, and just because it did feel kind of like I guess it was a continuation of the story, but it almost felt like the same story, like we were reintroducing the characters again, which kind of felt weird in this sense. So I gave this movie a 6 out of 10, and it didn't get nearly as good of a score on IMDb as the other one anyway, which everybody got. I think it was an 8 on IMDb, and I gave it a 7, and this one was, I gave it a 6, and it was a 7 on IMDb. So yeah, I'm hoping these movies kind of go in the other direction for me, and they get better as they go, but I was just talking to my buddy, and he said they get worse as they go. So, I guess I guess we'll see. He goes after number 4, it just kind of drops off. So I guess we'll see where this takes us. But I am gonna go watch Rocky 3 now, and then maybe I'll be able to fit in Rocky 4 as well this morning. So, but yeah, 6 out of 10 for this or for this review for this movie, and I will see you guys in the next review. Bye bye for now.